All right, you're welcome back to the program. We've been having an expanded conversation about voter apathy, participation, and what it's going to look like in about one day, if you don't count today. Let me go back to you, Ms. Mbamalu, in Abuja there, because I'm trying to establish what the voter turnout on Saturday will look like. Because when you look at from 1999 to 2015, you find that voter registration is one thing, but then voter turnout is almost half, or less. So you find out that you have percentages like 48% turnout, 65%, 57%. What do you think the youth will be doing differently this time for us not to just see it as, oh, so many of them have registered, but how many of them are going to turn out?
There's been a lot of GOTV, get out the vote activities ongoing. And beyond just the entertainment industry, and you have more of the celebrities taking the lead in mobilizing voters, you actually see conscious effort within religious spaces, within the social media platforms or spaces, and even in communities. I know for Yaga alone, we've had voter education outreach at different community levels where volunteers just go to the street to get people to participate and to even have interest in the process. Now, what the Not Too Young to Run has done also was, beyond even bringing out inspiring interest for young people to contest office, but also to start getting young people to ask critical questions like, what role do you play in the leadership of Nigeria, and how can you make decisions that would influence that? And it all begins with the power of the vote. Now, I believe that with all the engagements we've seen so far, there is an increased interest in the role of youth in these elections. Beyond that, if you look at even the mobilization for voter registration, you see that young people were leading the discourse within states, because we observed that process, and we saw different youth groups at different levels engaging people, engaging their peers on how to turn out to vote. Now, it's because I think at this point, there's this sudden realization that we have a longer time to spend in the country. And if we cannot fix the problem now, it means we will remain victims for long.
Yes, I hear what you're saying,
of a failing system. And that realization is what is inspiring that activeness and consciousness of young people to participate. And we're hopeful we'll see an increase in turnout on Saturday, not just on Saturday, for even the elections come March 2nd, where you have a larger number of youth candidates competing for the state assemblies. Over about 41% of the candidates.
Yes, but if I can just come in there, I hear what you're saying, that the people you're talking to and the people you have experienced are saying they're going to come out. But there are still a lot of people whom you say, what are you doing on the day? Oh, I'm going to sleep very well that day. That's the day I want to do my laundry. I really I'm not part of what they're doing. So are you still looking at that other aspect just to see? It's not just the ones that you're seeing, but there are still a great number of youths out there who are thinking, is this really for me?
Well, behavioral change is a gradual process. We don't expect spontaneous or instant change, meaning that it's been a long period where there's been a sort of lack of confidence in the process. Beyond that, there's also been the question of leadership, because, okay, I voted last time, nothing changed, so why should I vote again? So that change is a process. That's at that point of realizing the role. Now, there will always be the naysayers. There will always be those that do not appreciate the value of the vote. Even amongst the younger generation, not just in Nigeria, if you look at democracy, the challenge of democracy in different parts of the world, look at the Brexit, if you look at the US elections, if you look within the continent itself. So there will always be that group, that cohort. But what we're looking out for is what incremental difference would we see on Saturday and March 2nd. And that is reaching out to those we can reach out to. The younger people on social media to actually turn out to vote, beyond the younger people within the rural communities and within at the state level. So there would always be that class of people, and the messaging is beginning to change, that you're not voting, is actually voting. So there's nothing like protest vote. If you want to protest with your vote, then you come and vote to another candidate than to sit at home. Because the thing is, if you don't vote, the elections will be decided by those who turn out to vote. So if you look at the messaging by even ambassadors that were by INEC ambassadors for elections and different civil society organizations working with ambassadors to promote voter education, especially the celebrities and persons of influential personalities, you see that messaging is beginning to change. you see that message of not voting is also voting. Elections decided by those who turn out to vote. So sitting down and saying you have no role to play is also making a decision. And remember that young people are very active in the private sector. Policies are influenced by those in power. And if you do not vote, then those policies that will determine the growth of your business or your initiative, the development of your initiative, those policies would affect that. So you're not coming out to vote. It's also allowing those who turn out to vote to decide on which policies would govern the country or your state or the system for the next 4 years.
Let me put you on pause. Let me put you on pause, Cynthia. Let me put you on pause, Cynthia, and go to Jeff Ojidika there and ask him now. This is the passport to vote. And when we talk about voting population, voting turnout, voter awareness, this is the solution, but at the same time, it is the problem. For most people, since we introduced the PVCs, there's been a wide disparity between those who register to vote, those who collect their PVCs, and then those who eventually vote. Some of the figures we have indicate that, for example, in 2015, there were 67, 68 million people who registered to vote. Of that number, something like 48, 50% ended up with their PVCs. Of that number, only 28, 29 million ended up actually voting. So the government that has been in place between 2015 and now was actually elected by less than half the country's population, the voting population. Now, in 2019, what do you think has happened that could make this different? You heard Cynthia there talking exclusively about the much younger people who are in the majority. But expand the scope of your reaction to cover virtually everybody. Remember, Mr. Uwazurike talked about the IPOB and other particular issues that are in the southeast where our stats indicate apathy is at its highest.
Yeah, thank you. I think there will be a larger voter turnout this time. First and foremost, there's a whole lot of interest being shown by foreign nations, allies. A lot of observer missions are in the country. That has instilled a lot of confidence in Nigerians that at least with their presence, that things will be done rightly. Also, in terms of, as Cynthia said, there's a whole lot of youth population, the students. I'm sure the students who stayed at home for the last 3 months will want a situation where they will go and vote to make sure that the government that will come in will be a government that will not make it possible for them again to stay that length of time. And also, in that of the Southeast, I think it's so unfortunate. There still need to be a lot of awareness campaign, even up to tomorrow, but not for any political. I expect all political parties, all messages to go because the level of disinformation going on there is so high. And it's most unfortunate, very, very unfortunate, and highly regrettable. But I'm sure, I trust the Southeasterners, I trust our people. They can decipher between real cause, genuine cause, and fake ones. I'm sure the time has come for them to really realize who is really working for their welfare. Because for anybody right now that people are clamoring that they need to exercise their rights by electing whoever will be their president or who will represent them at whatever level. At whatever level, if you need to have a referendum, you need to have a country, you need to have another nation. It is still through these elected people that you get to have all these things done. So the best bet is for you to elect people who will go there and speak for you. So asking people not to vote, not to come out to vote, is something that is very unfortunate. But I'm sure from the events happening, from the drama that is happening now, it is really, coming out very clear to the Southeasterners that these people don't mean well at all for them. And they really have to do a lot to change. And secondly, the issue of voter education and awareness is more primarily the duty of political parties. It's not really for civil societies, organizations, for them to call out people. It's for the people who really want these people's votes to go out there and call out the people to come out. So it's basically, we expect that now that we have 91 political parties, before now, it used to be about 40-something. So right now, the number almost doubled. So we're expecting that it will also translate to enhanced participation, that political parties will go out there and get people, the candidates will go out there and get people to come out to vote. So, and another important thing that has also come out this time, and I'm sure the statistics will change. We have 94 million registered voters, but we have insisted this time that we are not targeting at that 84 million registered voters. Rather, we want to know in the next few hours the number of people who have collected PVCs, and that will be the basis of assessment, because the number of people who have collected PVCs will be the indicator of actual number of voters that we have. Because if you have not collected PVCs this time, you are not a voter for this 2019 election. So once we get that figure, it is then that we can now do a statistical analysis with respect to the number of people that turned out. And that's, in the past, we used to have based it on the number of people who registered, but not actually based on the number of people who have collected PVCs. But this time, it's going to be based on the number of people that have collected PVCs. So that's, we're going to have a better statistical analysis to really know the number of people who have actually turned out.
Yes, Mr. Ojinka, actually we've been at this since Monday, and I remember us speaking to the INEC National Commissioner, and he had said that that number will be given to us. We asked him on Monday, and he told us that the process ended just that day, and that before the elections, we will have that figure. Even on social media, they're asking, INEC is yet to release the number of PVCs collected by the actual electorate. So that concern is not just for you alone. But right now, I'm going to have to thank members of our panel right here, Chief Goddy Uwazurike, legal practitioner, and former President Ake Ikenga, and also to thank Dr. Fasi Yusuf, social media commentator, for the comments that you've given us this evening. Quite insightful. Radi?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. But I think, from what I'm hearing, we seem to have about 3 or 4 more minutes with them before we take them away. So,
I take?
Yes. What's your view now? I mean, you've heard everything that's been said everywhere. You talked the youth thing. Mr. Ojika has talked about the IPOP thing and what's going on in the Southeast. And Mr. Uwazurike, of course, has pointed out what could be the stumbling block and so on. Now, as you look on to Saturday, a day from now, let me use the German phrase, a day from now if you don't count today.
Yes, Nigerians must believe and must know that without sustainable democracy, we cannot make much progress in this country. And therefore, you can only exercise your right, you can only be part of development if you go out to vote.
How about you?
Thank you. This is my own PVC.
Okay.
We
need you to take a picture with it
and then
tell us your location, not our studio.
Hold on. I join everybody. Come out on that day. This election is very passionate for many people. Those who want the situation to continue and those who want to change it. That's exactly what is in issue. And I'm happy the President General for Hanese, Chief Nyawodo, made a broadcast today on the internet, and it's circulating. So between today and tomorrow, many people will listen to him. They respect him. So for the Southeast, for the South-South, I can assure you they will come out in large numbers. They're not looking for anything except fair, free election.
Thank you very much, distinguished gentlemen.
Yes,
Ijoma has already thanked you.
Well, yes, and just before we let you go again, do watch out for our documentary on Muhammadu Buhari, the man behind the persona, and we'll be bringing that to you. And we'll also be bringing you Atiku's footprint. So once again, to look out for the documentaries, Muhammadu Buhari, the man behind the persona, and Atiku's footprints.
That will, of course, be after tonight's show, which, in order to accommodate that, we will be closing a bit earlier than we normally do. But let's thank our guests here in Lagos, Dr. Fasi Yusuf, Mr. Wazurike, and then, of course, thank Mr. Ojunika in Abuja as well for joining us on this segment. We'll take a break at this point, and when we come back, we'll continue with the discussion.